Let's get into it. We got Joe Rogan speaking with David Grush. And of course, Joe Rogan, no matter who he's talking to, whether it's a man who's whistleblowing about the knowledge of alien craft and biologics, as he calls it, or a scientist who is wildly intelligent that could tell him the secrets of the world, Joe Rogan always gets into the rant about AI coming and it's inevitable and will merge or we get left behind. And in this clip, there's a whole lot of we. I want you to listen close for that. There's a whole lot of this is what we do. And before I even play the clip for you, I want to know in your head, what do you think the main thing that people do is? The main thing that if aliens were above us, they would see us doing more than anything else. I want to ask you that before he says what he thinks, before I say what I think. I'm pushing back on what Joe Rogan's saying a whole lot in this clip, in this episode, because I honestly think he's wrong. But in listening to him, because I like to listen to things that I don't agree with, I've come up with a new notion of what I think is going to happen in regards to AI. All right, so let's get into it. Joe Rogan clip first. I got him in he's about to transform right there. Let's get into the clip.
It would be a long, if you think about biological evolution, so a long, lengthy process. And if ultimately that led us to the creation of a technology that's far superior in terms of its capabilities of understanding and thinking, that seems to be what's happening. And that's one of the reasons why so many people are concerned about the term artificial intelligence is a very strange term because it's not artificial. It's intelligence.
It's silicon-based instead of carbon-based, right?
Yeah, it's just, it doesn't have blood and tissue and cells, but it has something that's superior. It also has something that's much more scalable, right? We have a very obvious biological limitation in terms of evolution. You know, if you look at evolution, and we turn back to the orangutans that are fishing, they're obviously learning new things, and those new properties from those new things we assume will be encoded in their genetics and then passed to their children. Do you have children?
No, I have 3 dogs. We went the fluffy. I'm a fluffy dad.
The problem is dogs don't learn from. Well, they do, but one of the most bizarre things about children is that they have properties that are clearly. It's hard to say, right? Because my children obviously have the example of my wife and myself, and they obviously see a lot of how we live our life, and discipline and hard work and creativity and all those things. But there's also they seem to have gifts that they seem to be clearly genetic.
Yeah.
And artistic gifts that just seem extraordinary, that are unusual, that I had when I was younger, that I was an illustrator. I have a young daughter that's just extraordinarily good at art.
Really? You used to illustrate?
Yeah. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a comic book illustrator.
Interesting. Yeah.
But then I have this other daughter that's super gifted athletically. Like, she can learn things really quickly. It's extraordinary. It's weird. And also this drive that she has. I had a drive from poverty and from a lot of like stuff that was wrong with my childhood that seemed to be I had this need to prove myself. She doesn't have any of those problems, but she also has this insane drive. It's weird. It's a weird discipline. It's extraordinary. That seems to be very different than most kids. And I just think that's an emerging genetic. I think there's something encoded in whatever you are as a human that as you replicate and as you have children, they have that. They have some of that.
Yeah.
And I think that is this process, this biological evolutionary process with humans. But there's so much chaos. There's so much. I mean, you could breed with a dumb person. And you could find a hot dumb person and have a baby with them. Now your kid's fucked. Yeah. And then we see that. There's like this. Obviously, some people are just born with brains that just don't work that well. It's just like, I'm sure you've met some dull-minded people. Yeah. And you try to talk to them about things, and there's no one there. You're right. So okay, good luck, and good luck with whatever children you have, and what are they going to have?
Well, then we're we're genetically encoding artificial intelligence now. Kind of, I think that's where you were going.
Yeah, what I'm going with it, like these biological limitations that we have, it's very clear that we're essentially dealing with a Model T as opposed to a Tesla, which is just insanely superior to these ancient vehicles.
Yeah.
We create technology. I've always said this, if you looked at the human race, if you were some sort of an outside observer and you stumbled upon this thing that occupies this planet, this apex predator of this planet, you would say, what is this thing doing? What's making technology? All the other things that it does all these other things. But what do these things generally motivate? What do they move towards? They move towards the advancement of technology and innovation. That is a constant aspect of human beings, if you trace us back to the earliest civilizations to what we have today, things constantly improve unless something goes horribly wrong. Unless there's some sort of a natural disaster or some sort of a, genocide. If something doesn't happen to these creatures, what do? They consistently make better things. Well, that, if you extrapolate, if you follow that to its natural progression, well, what is that going to get to? Well, once they've invented computers, and once they've invented devices, and once they've invented things that enhance their personal understanding of the world around them, which we already have now with phones, we already have with the internet, we already have with our ability to communicate with each other. The newest, latest Android phones that are coming out will translate natively on your phone in real time in conversation. So you could be speaking Portuguese to me, I would hear it in English on a phone call, which is fucking wild.
It's crazy. That's like Universal Translator in Star Trek, literally.
Yes, literally.
Yeah.
Well, that is a real thing now. Without having to use Google Translate, it's native to the latest Android operating system. You could, if you just sit down and said, well, where's that going? Well, it's going to something way more sophisticated and way more capable than we are biologically with our limitations. Our monkey bodies, we are the ancestors or the people that emerged from that distant cousin, that orangutan that's using a stick to hunt fish. We're going in this direction.
Yeah.
What would be the most logical way we would completely accelerate that? We create something that does what we do, but does it way better.
Yeah, it's almost like to permanently harbor our consciousness eventually, right?
Right. And
that kind of makes sense.
Right.
Yeah,
it does make sense.
Yeah.
And there's a sort of understanding of that leads to this fear of our demise that everyone, Elon's openly discussed this. Sam Altman and I were talking about it. What OpenAI is doing, what ChatGPT 4 versus ChatGPT 5, which is going to be insanely superior. Well, what is ChatGPT 15 going to do? Is that going to be the president of the world? Like what are we going to bypass government and just say, it's obvious like this administration is incredibly corrupt and flawed and influenced by the military-industrial complex. It's not good for the world. It's not good for the environment. We need something that is far superior, that doesn't have all these motivations. Well, what would that be? That would be an artificial intelligent creator that or a creation rather, that we use to govern life.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds nuts, but I think that's probably a better solution than humans with all of our fucking flaws and issues and greed and envy and all the things that we have. That would be a better version of it. But what are we saying then? Are we saying that we're
programming
obsolete?
like empathy into it though?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
But we will become obsolete, or we will merge, and if we merge, it will completely change what we are. And I think that's very likely what's going to take place. I think the initial stages will be some sort of a merging with technology, and then from that merging, it will essentially we'll realize, well, why are we even fucking around? Like this new thing is so superior, and it doesn't have all the pitfalls. It doesn't have all the problems. It's not short-sighted. It's not going to drain the ocean of fish so that we can make sushi. It's going to do something that's going to be far more aware of all of the different effects of each individual act and how we affect everything around us and what is net positive and what is net negative and how to avoid all these things. I really firmly believe that we are this biological caterpillar that is making a cocoon to create the electronic butterfly. And we don't even know what we're doing while we're doing it. We're just doing it. And I think materialism is also baked into that. One of the main problems with human beings in terms of like the ridiculousness of our actions, we're so materialistic. People are constantly wanting to get the newest, latest, greatest thing. Well, what's the motivation behind that other than social status? Well, the motivation is that's what fuels innovation. If we all just stop right now and said, hey, you know what? iPhone 15 is pretty fucking dope. We don't need to make new iPhones. Let's just keep fixing those and just like exist the way we are right now, and let's clean up the air, and let's clean up the ocean, let's clean up the sea, and clean up the rivers, and clean up the forests. Like, let's just fix the earth. And then, no, we don't do that. No, I want iPhone 16. When is the iPhone going to be able to communicate completely just with satellites, so I don't have to worry about cell phones?
Well, it's almost like a drug addiction, right? They did studies where people receiving in text messages is the dopamine rush too.
Yes.
So it's almost like an artificial drug addiction you're fueling because you want the more responsive tech, more integrating with make easier so you can get your fix quicker and more efficiently or something like that. I don't know.
Right, and why? Yeah. Well, I mean, why would fucking staring at a stupid cell phone give you a dopamine rush? Well, it does.
It does.
It does.
I'm not a biologist. I don't know why
and you
it does,
get addicted to your goddamn phones. And then why would it be that we would innovate and create things like Instagram and TikTok that are insanely addictive to the point where you look down and you've spent 3 hours staring at nothing, nonsense? Like what why is that? Well, that ensures continual use of this device until it lures you into this ultimate integration.
Well, it's right.
Here's the thing, right? Very anti-human. Very anti-human rant, I have to say. But here's the thing. He keeps talking about the we. This is not a we thing. It's not you and I who are making all of this technology. It's not, right? It's funny how if we were talking about somebody who did some vile act, we'd be like, that's terrible. We wouldn't say we do such terrible things. We would say that person, some people are just terrible. Well, it goes the same with technology. There are some people who are building this technology. And when you think about it, when he speaks about what people do, aliens above us looking down, seeing what people do, well, they make technology and they make things better and better. That is not what we do. In fact, if aliens looked down, I don't think they would see a huge population of people doing that. I think they'd see a very small population of people continuously doing that. And there's an even smaller population, 1% of people, who are financing that small group of people to keep doing that. So in reality, it's not we that keep making this technology. It's these other people who are doing this to us. They're putting it onto us. He brought up Instagram and iPhones, and no one asked for that. No one said, I want to just look at pictures. I want to see people twerking and doing pranks and disgusting things and beautiful. No one said that. It was a small group of people that decided to do that. And that's how it's been with every single jump in technology that's been pushing towards us being, like he said, obsolete. Nobody wants to be obsolete. There's no people in the world who are looking to be obsolete. Not even the people who are building this want to be obsolete. The problem is they have no problem with us, the 99%. They have no problem with us becoming obsolete. It's just a huge problem. This is not something that we do. This is something that's being done to us. And I honestly think it'll get to a certain point where we won't allow this to happen. In fact, I will even go a step further to think the reason that we can't find any remnants, even though we see these massive structures of technology carved into mountains, gigantic pyramids all over the world. How did they do this? How did they move these things? At some point, there was probably some kind of wild technology. And at some point, it probably either got so advanced that it either left the planet or it was destroyed. Destroyed by who? The people who didn't want to become obsolete. And when it comes to him talking about we're going to merge, and it's going to be this thing, I think a more likely thing that we're going to see happen is that people are going to destroy it. You have to think. Again, it's not we that are building all of this. Small group of people. And if those small group of people keep building these things that are making billions of us obsolete, well, then eventually the billions of people are going to be like, well, this is enough. You're doing this. You're not asking us, but it's going to affect us more than it's going to affect you. We're not going to have this anymore. And it'll probably be this cycle of where this technology gets destroyed. We rebuild. We start to rebuild at a very slow pace like we have before. And then that technology comes around again, and it's just been this cycle. That's my thinking. And then, I mean, if I go really deep, and then the aliens, quote unquote, that we see are actually the people who did decide to merge and realize that they had to leave because they weren't needed on this planet. Now that's me getting a little tinfoil hattish, but really think about it. Why would we continue to allow this? Why would we at a certain point where it's just like, oh, this thing's going to replace all of us? What 8 billion people are letting that happen? Let's just say 7.8 billion. Let's say there's 200 million who are actually building technology constantly, making it better and better. Right? I think that's a fair number throughout the world. Like, think about how many people are in Apple. Maybe the company has 100,000 employees. How many people really make the technology? How many people are really making the tech better and better? How many people of those are legal, administrative, and they don't actually have a direct impact on the technology itself? And then times that by every company that you see out there that has to do with tech or AI or anything like that. It's a very small amount of people, and they're doing it to us. Now, what I will say is, and I've been neglecting to say it, that if you look above as an alien and you're looking down on what people do, what people really do is fight. That's what people really do. That's what you'll really see if you were an alien looking down. And on top of that, you might say, well, yeah, we fight with all sorts of technology. I would say you would probably see more fights with fists, knees, and elbows and feet than you would with technology. Not everybody can get a hold of firearms or bombs or nukes or this or grenades or that. Not everybody can. It's, again, small percentage of people. So if you look down, you'll see that people fight more than anything. And if you think that these people who do more fighting than anything else are just going to allow some small group of people to make them all obsolete, I think the only natural recourse is when those two things meet, it'll be destroyed. And maybe it'll get to a point where it can't be destroyed. Maybe. But I doubt it. I highly, highly doubt it. Listen, self-checkout machines, phones getting better and better. You know, it's odd when you see a bunch of self-checkout machines and you see these employees just kind of standing around like it's all okay. It's pretty odd to see, but that'll only last so long. You start to do that in every single grocery store, every single store. Eventually, people are going to be like, what's going on here? You start doing it to truck drivers just because. Eventually, people are going to be like, what's going on here? You start doing it to artists. People are going to be like, what's happening right now? And what do you have in store for us? And why do we even have to ask this small percentage of people who, for some reason, cannot stop making technology better and better? Why do we have to ask them what they have in store for us? It literally makes no sense. The only way what Joe Rogan's saying will happen is if no one does anything or can't because they are, I don't know, incapacitated, unable. I have no idea. But the only way that happens, the only way, is if no one stands in the way. And I highly doubt it, given all the people that there are on Earth. As you are this small group of people making human beings obsolete, I really think someone's going to end up standing in the way. I really do. I would highly doubt I'm the only person thinking this way. I think I might be one of the more level-headed people who's not talking about going out and doing anything. I'm just seeing it for what it is. You're threatening a species that does mostly fighting, and you're going to make them obsolete so they can't fend, defend, or do anything for themselves. I don't see that going well. That's just me. I don't know. He always goes into these very anti-human rants, and Sam Altman said he seems very neutral about it, but this is not someone who's neutral about this. And again, you know, even if I love someone and respect them, still going to question them, still going to say they're wrong at times, because this is just, I think this is bordering nonsense. Just with everything I just said, it seems nonsensical. Like, I get it. People really do give in to conveniences, to things that make life easier. But we have yet to have things come along that make us completely obsolete. It's one thing for a housewife or a husband to have something come into the house and make things easier. It's another thing that pretty much makes him or her useless. You know? Like right now, if all of a sudden I had something that just cooked and it was some robot that just did all the cooking, my wife would not like it. She'd be like, we're going to turn it off on the weekends or something, because she likes to cook for me. She doesn't like to just sit around and feel useless. Same thing for me. There are things that I do for her that I want to be able to do. You know, whether it's fill up her water bottle every morning or whatever it is, the little things. And that's just a very small example. I don't think people are going to put up with this until the point where we're obsolete. I really don't. And another question would be, who are these people? But we know who they are. They're at OpenAI. They're at questionably, they're at X. They're at Meta. They're at, the deep fake technology people. They're all the tech people, big tech. Do they have some kind of problem? Because this is all being positioned, even by Rogan. This is all being positioned like whoever's not on board with this has some kind of issue. I'd beg to differ. I think whoever feels a need to completely make a species obsolete when they are of that species, they have the problem. They actually have the problem. I'm telling you, man, this type of stuff really gets under my skin because I'm pro-human. I'm very much pro-human. I really, really am. I don't pick up strangers on the side of the street or anything, but I'll definitely throw them $5 or something if they're down on their luck. I'm very pro-human. Very, very pro-human. So when I hear all these people from all these large walks of life who have this massive amount of influence keep talking about how we're going to be obsolete and we're going to get left behind unless we merge with this technology, I'm like, what are you talking about? Which is why I inch closer and closer to this life of being on a farm and growing my own food and having a whole community of people that do that, so we can just say, no, we're not going to be a part of this, because it doesn't seem like these people are stopping. I mean, even somebody who is a bow hunter and a martial artist and, you'd say an outdoorsman, not as much as like Cameron Hanes or, any full-scale hunter, but, he's an outdoorsman. And even he's saying, oh, we're going to have to merge. It's inevitable. I don't think it's inevitable. I think that the more people in that type of position say it's inevitable, the more people get predictively programmed into thinking that it's inevitable, and the more accepting they become of becoming obsolete. And I don't think that's something we should accept. Anyways, guys, hit up IamCoachColin.com to support the channel, because that's going to become the only way soon with rants like this. Anyway, like the episode, subscribe, and I'm out.